What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee and Questions podcast. I am Michelle Berman Michael, your host, and I have a special guest today who I have had the immense privilege of spending quite a bit of time with virtually over the last several months, and in the process have really just found a friend in a very oversaturated marketplace, if you will. But a really fun friend that I have just been very grateful for all of our conversations and the time that we've spent together. But this person is none other than Ryan Hills. Many of you guys may know him, but he is currently a regional director with Movement Mortgage. But he is also the owner of RE Source, pretty much the OG guys of video. So, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And I don't drink coffee, so today I guess it's going to be rock stars in question because that's what my coffee is in the morning is a rock star. I've already had one, and don't judge me, but I'll have another one here shortly.
Oh gosh, I am with you. I had a Celsius yesterday, and I haven't had a Celsius probably in a year, and it was just I was zinging quickly after having one of those. Monsters, though, I don't know how you do that. It just makes me feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack every time. But
The sad thing is I've had them for so many years. I mean, I started drinking them when I was doing like MMA back in '08, just to get me going for training. And now I still drink them in what year is it, 2024? And so it doesn't even do anything for me. I don't even get a pickup, but it's just habit now.
it's just like have to have something in your hand kind of
Yeah.
thing. Kind
Yeah.
of like coffee. If I drink coffee at 4 o'clock at night, it's not gonna affect me going to sleep, even though people would be like, "How are you doing that?" I'm like, I'm just desensitized to it. It doesn't do what you
Yeah.
think it does.
Right. Exactly.
Well, Ryan, I'm really excited to have you on the show. We chatted a lot about how we wanted to do this episode. And I think the biggest thing that I want people to know about you is you really are the OG of video, especially in the mortgage space, and really just mortgage and real estate as a whole. Like there's just nobody that's done it the way that you've done it. And so what I would love is if you actually kick us off by telling us a little bit about what is Resource TV, how did it start? How long have you been in the industry? And just give us some backstory to just the birth of all of that.
Yeah. What's sad for me is I remember being the young guy in the business, and in my head, I still am. But OG is I guess a title I'll take. I got a lot of gray hair from it, but it was, I always say necessity is the mother of invention. It really is. And the last time we faced adversity like we had faced the last couple of years was, the Great Recession. I was pretty young in the business, and nobody really had taught. I didn't have great mentors or leaders to teach me how to do the business. And so I had a few years right before '08, and really was just doing refinances, and was kind of never even taught what a realtor did, crazy enough. So had no relationships at all. Great business strategy. And so when the rug was pulled out from underneath all of us, I had no business making it through. I didn't. Nobody taught me how to build a business, run it, what a realtor was. I only had a couple of years in the business, didn't have a database, but I was a young father, and I wasn't gonna give up. I wasn't gonna quit the business. I had, even though I had a couple of years before the Great Recession, I still loved it. And so I had to figure out, like, how am I going to survive? I had no business. I was the last guy that should have survived. There was a big thinning of the herd, if you will, the last couple of years in our business, both in real estate and lending. And there was back then, and I should have been one of the guys that got cut. Thankfully, I wasn't. I was super driven to figure out how can I provide for my family, how can I stay relevant in a town that's called Puyallup, Washington, that nobody knows where it's at, Cowtown, USA, south of Seattle by an hour. And so we just were like, what if we just started shooting video? And my original thought was like, I can only have so many coffees and lunches with realtors because I got to start figuring out who these people are and why they matter and how they can send me business. So I can start with a couple lunches and coffees a day, or I can kind of take a bigger approach and start trying to at least get content out there. That way, when I do reach out, because they don't know me and I don't know them, maybe there's a familiar face. And it actually worked out for me because when you coach a lot of people, when they do video, there's a growth curve to it. There's a familiarity curve as well. Sometimes you start and you're like very rigid and don't know what to do with your hands, and your delivery is not great. But for me, I had ran a youth group with my wife for so many years, and I loved it. And I was speaking at church on Sundays and on Wednesdays. And so I had reps, preparing a message and trying to deliver in a short amount of time that was compelling. And and I felt good speaking in front of people. So it was a natural transition for me to get into the camera. I'm like, this is easy because I can mess up now. Now they can hit reset. So it was weird how that door closed prior to movement, prior to mortgage. It opened up, and then the skill set was redeemed in a different way that I thought it was going to be. So I was thankful. So I felt like I was comfortable on video. Again, 08, think back to 08, guys, 06, 7, and 8, really. YouTube was a thing, but it hadn't taken off. Facebook was really just taking off. Our first couple shows, we had to, basically edit. The machines were horrible. It took us hours to edit a 4-minute show, believe it or not, hours and hours and hours, and then rendering the show. And then we had to host it on our own servers and our own website. Like you didn't host it on YouTube. Good Lord, this makes me old. You didn't
It's
host
just
it on
wild.
YouTube.
Like my brain. Oh my gosh. Like it's just wild to think about that. Like how fast you said it takes hours and hours and hours to edit a 4-minute show. I mean, hell, we can edit a 4-hour or even an hour show in 4 minutes now.
Yeah.
Like,
Shoot. I mean,
inverse.
Eric's over here. He's building, a program that learns his editing style, and essentially AI, he can upload the raw, and based off of his editing style, the B-roll that he likes to use, lower thirds, it'll basically know this is how he edits, and AI will basically chop the video for him. So yeah, we've grown quite a bit in this space. But yeah, back then, like rendering, if you guys know what that is, like you do all your work in chopping video, and then you got to render the video, which is the final product. And the machines weren't built for that, or at least maybe we were poor and couldn't afford them, the nice ones. So our machine couldn't do it fast, and so we would be literally sitting at the office till midnight, just waiting for this thing to render and deliver it the next day. So fast forward, originally the goal, like I said, was just to be relevant and try to reach some realtors in Puyallup, Washington. That started happening. We were contrarian. Nobody else was really doing it. Looking back, I didn't know this in the moment, but in tough times, like I don't care, top producer, low producer, mid producer, like everybody was looking for direction. Everybody was looking for guidance and vision. And I wasn't trying to be that. I was, like I told you, I was honest. I was just trying to survive. I didn't have any, wisdom to share with anybody. I was just trying to survive. But it connected with people because they were looking for something as well. And that was awesome because I started immediately meeting like really good realtors that, maybe felt like they had lost it as well, or they weren't, maybe they were trying to survive too. It was like trauma bonding type thing. So it worked. And I was like, oh, this is great. I finally, can, learn the other side of the business. And then what was really cool after maybe a year or 2 or 3, and we were talking about how everything seems like you're an overnight success. They don't see the mountain of work beneath it. But this is like staying consistent and shooting awful shows and taking way too long to shoot them. And looking back, they were like, I would have never released that show. But just staying consistent, committed to the strategy, loan officers started connecting with it. That wasn't my target audience. I was trying to reach realtors. And then loan officers were also looking for some guidance and vision. And they were like, hey, man, I really like what you're doing. Where do you work again? I had no plan to try to build anything out. And to this day that I've gone from trying to keep my head above water in 08 to running, a gigantic region at Movement Mortgage, one of the top regions in the entire country, $4 billion worth of business, amazing loan officers and marketing people and LOAs and processors, underwriters. And I would say that from that to that, it's a mountain of work, but the one thing I'd credit to is content creation, because it put me in touch with all these people that I got to know via content creation and video. I built rapport. And then this thing that was intended for realtors started helping me build like the first branch in Puyallup, Washington. I'm like, oh, you seem cool. We seem to connect. You want to work with me? Yeah, sure. Cool. And then hire number 2, hire number 3, hire number 4, branch. Well, shoot, if I can do that in Puyallup, let's go to Tacoma. Hire number 1, hire number 2, hire number 3, Gig Harbor, Lacey, and so I started just building out branches because the doors are just being flung open with content creation. Nobody was really doing it. And organically became like an area manager, if you will. I didn't have a title. It happened quickly. And so they eventually gave me the title, but it was kind of cool because I earned it organically. And then, that's my mind, how it works. It's like, okay, well, if we did this in Washington, why not Oregon? And then why not Alaska? And so now, again, blessed and so fortunate to run some really amazing, beautiful states with amazing people: Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Colorado, Montana. These are really cool states.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I love the people that I work with. It's never been like a big cattle call, like everybody come work with us. It's been like, hey, we are very like-minded. Let's see what we can do together. So that's my long-winded answer of how the RE source, which is short for the real estate source. Like I told you in the green room, don't judge me. That was 18 years ago when we came up with that name. We certainly could dust it off and give a new name, but that's
Not
the story.
anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
too good.
story.
It's too ingrained. It's too branded to you. You can't change it now. Um,
Yeah.
I love this whole story, and I feel like it's such a testament to the core focus of what I really want to bring to light today, which is video is not something you just do today and then tomorrow you've arrived, right? And I think you and I have had, as I was mentioning before, we've had so many great conversations offline. And I think one of those conversations is that it's right now, today, there's so many people that you and I both talk to that say, hey, I feel like I haven't started. I don't even know where to start. I'm so far behind the eight ball. Like everyone else is already doing this and already doing that. Like, what's the point of me starting today because I'm so far behind? And I mean, you said it best. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want you to say it. But the reality is that it doesn't matter when you start because there's so much that changes in just such a short time. And if you want to speak to that, I think that would be an awesome place for us to kick the next part of this off.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that too a lot. Like I'm so far behind, or um, just not being familiar. You hear that too, like with the
Mm-hmm.
camera and being awkward. Like so was I. I mean, you think I don't love looking at myself. I don't love hearing myself. I critique the crap out of it, guys. Trust me, I'm just like everybody else. But I also have a job to do, and I like to do it this way. I think it's way more efficient, um, for all the reasons I just told you the story. And you know what I mean? Like I can do this one at a time, belly to belly with people, or I can go out there and leverage social media to the highest of its ability, and connect even bigger than I ever thought. So um, I always say, like with realtors and loan officers watching, like there's a lot to become a successful realtor and loan officer in this business. There's a lot of work, a lot of different ways, a million ways to make $1,000,000. If you can make yourself the most relevant realtor or the most relevant loan officer in your market, I promise you everything else will fall into place. So the question is, how do I do that? How do I become the most relevant loan officer in my market? Well, Michelle and I believe that it's leveraging social media and video.
Mm-hmm.
There's other ways to do it. I just think this is the most efficient way to do it. So when you wake up in the morning, I know that's a 100,000 foot level strategy, and there's way more to it below it. But if your focus is how am I going to be the most relevant person in my market today, I promise the rest of the stuff will follow into place. And then the question is, like, what am I going to do today to make sure that I am the most relevant person? That's your guiding principle. Like for me, I always have something for the year guiding me. This year's is discipline is greater than motivation. Um, and so, whether you need to put it on your wrist or put it on your computer, let that be your guiding principle and watch your business change overnight.
I love that. Discipline over motivation, because let's be honest, motivation fades and fades quickly sometimes. I was just talking to a mutual friend of ours this morning and said to her, I was like, I've had a really long 2 weeks, not in a bad way, but just in a long way, in the sense of I'm really looking forward to getting out of Dodge for a few days with my family. But that the point of your statement, right, of motivation is fleeing and can leave you,
Mm-hmm.
but discipline doesn't. And both you and I are certainly no stranger to the word, which is part of why I think we get along so well. But what I do want to pull the curtain back on is the video concept, specifically 18 years ago, or the big thing about this that I don't want people to miss is what Ryan has created, or what Ryan started 18 years ago. He still has to live in that same space today, right? So fast forward 18 years, he's no farther along than someone who hasn't started in reality, right? If he doesn't keep learning. And I think that's the key piece to this, because has he done it over a longer period of time? Yeah, for sure. But does that mean that he never has to innovate? Does that mean that he never has to keep learning? Does that mean he never has to be in the right rooms, learning from the right people that are doing things that might give him that 1% edge that he doesn't currently have? And the answer obviously is no. Of course we have to do that. So Ryan, can you talk about a lot of what or some of what you've had to do incrementally throughout the 18 years since then? Like what small shifts have you made? If you can get really tactical and say, I was doing this and then we shifted to this and kind of timeline it for people, I think that would be a really cool way of seeing your evolution over this time frame.
Yeah, and there's a lot 18 years later, even having an 18-year head start, however you want to say it, like it can really be used against you because the industry, the social media industry evolves quickly. That
Mm,
old book, Who Moved My Cheese, it's so true. Like we don't have an advantage over anybody. Somebody tomorrow, and we've seen it. There's a lot of influencers that have come into our space and have blown up real quick overnight, like truly overnight, not 18 years of success behind them or work. So it can absolutely happen, which should encourage you. Back to your question about like I got in it late. Well, so did a lot of people, and
mhm.
they because it's a lot easier than what it was for us. You can blow up very very quickly if you understand these strategies, and you can really really leverage them. But originally, like we had to build websites back when it was tough. We didn't have what's the website creator now, Eric? Wix, and what are the big ones like Squarespace? Yeah, where you can
Oh
just
yeah.
go in and like website in a box. No, like we had to like code stuff back when it was uphill both ways. God, I sound old again. But we had to like go in and code and like build our own website and host our own videos and then figure out how are we going. We didn't have a social media to go out and then connect. That was the delivery portal. So we were like getting emails and making sure that we had sent them out to realtors and loan officers. It was very very old school and very very difficult to reach your target audience. I'll just say it that way. And then Facebook came, and then YouTube came, and then all the rest of them. So what I'll tell you where our struggle is now, where we need to get better. So because of that, we've had to be relevant or try to be relevant in all of these different social media streams. So YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, our own website. We're re-syndicated, thankfully, through the National Real Estate Post, which is probably the only other guy that's done it longer than me is Brian Stevens and Frank Gray in California, which we guest hosted their show many years ago. But they re-syndicate, and so does Ken Perry at Knowledge Coop. It's in the Knowledge Coop, and if you guys don't know who that is, he's basically a continued education company that's leveraged all across the country, and so big mortgage companies leverage him. So our content lives in the Knowledge Coop as well. So that's a lot of different streams to be relevant and good at. That's good because we have a lot of exposure. With the challenges, like Michelle could certainly bust our chops, and you have, and you should. Like we don't own, and we're not great on Instagram itself. And I could say why? Well, it's because that's not the only place we live. We could debate like, should it be 18 years later? Should we go all in? I don't know. I mean, we've worked for 18 years to build a double opted in database of 50,000 plus subscribers, and there's a way to monetize that too. So that's where we struggle, guys, right now is how do we dominate YouTube? How do we dominate Facebook? How do we dominate Twitter and Instagram? It's that old saying, like, what is it? A master, Michelle, I know you know this.
A master of like I know where you're going, but like
Yeah.
something of one, like something of many and a master of none, or some whatever
Yeah.
the
Yes.
somebody Google
So
it for us. Email Ryan
somebody good.
after you listen
Right.
to our
You
podcast.
guys know
Hit
the
him up on
saying I'm trying to
Instagram.
say. But we're
Um,
not mastering any of them, and it's really difficult. And that's where we have awesome teammates. Ricky's right here, and Eric and RC that help us do it. But even with that big of a team, it's really difficult to go in and master all of those. So that's where our struggle is today. We believe in our content. We know that we are known. We have tried to set the standard for the industry for quality, and everybody that has come on the team has taken that torch and made it even better. Again, a testament to Ricky and RC and Eric. They chop our videos, and it's always the best audio, the best quality. Maybe not the best host, but everything else is going
oh,
to be
stop
amazing.
it.
And so that's been just a guiding principle of ours. And then for me as the host for 18 years, every week in, week out, I don't even know how many shows. My guiding principle is like, I'm not going to shoot, and we could debate this. I've debated this a lot with content creators. I am not going to just shoot content.
Mm.
And I would, because I feel like I'm training my audience to tune me out if I'm just throwing out a piece of content. I'm like, oh, that wasn't very important to Hills. Why do I need to watch it? And so I push myself every week going, what is the most relevant thing this week to talk about? And that has helped us, I think, stay relevant for 18 years. I hope so, because we're just not shooting content to shoot content. I'm not checking a box. Well, today's Friday and I need to, write something and release it on Monday. No, I am studying the market every week, which keeps me sharp too, honestly, because I have to come out with something relevant. So I'm scouring all of the different content funnels to go, here's the best 4 or 5 relevant stories this week. I'll take all of that. I have like a content funnel for how we, create our show. It starts on Monday and I'm reading. I usually drop it in a folder. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And by the time it comes to Friday, when we shoot and edit, I'll have tried to take in everything in that has happened in our industry, both real estate, mortgage, finance. And I know what's happening, what's hot, if it's a NAR lawsuit, whatever. And then I'll come out with on Friday, I'll merge all of that into like the end of the week. This is what happened. This is why it's important. Try to deliver it in a amplify sort of way for me. We were talking about those strategies. I still love frame, message, tie down. And then we shoot on Friday for 18 years. We shoot on Friday, we deliver on Monday. So that's our content strategy for 18 plus years.
Yeah, and then it's just rinse, wash, and repeat, right? But I think like your content strategy and how you come up with your topics is so mirrored to how I do mine. So like I do professional development every morning. I read 30 minutes no matter what, regardless of what it is. I have a very strict goal of 1 professional development book a month for the year. This is the first year that I think I'll actually hit it, which is huge. Ironically, it's the busiest year of my career, and it's the first year I'm actually going to get all 12 books in, which is wild. Something about the word discipline, right? You can't teach that. You either have it or you don't. But what I think is the thing that we talk about a lot with video content, and you've said the word relevance many, many times in this episode so far, but it all boils down to one thing, right? And our goal is to be remembered. And you've certainly created a lane in the video space, in the mortgage space, in the real estate space of being remembered and being somebody that is sort of like the lighthouse for us to always trust is going to be there when we need to get in to shore. But what I really think is important is being remembered is the whole goal. So what's one of the biggest things that a mortgage or real estate professional wants, right? At the end of every email signature, it's this one word and they want referrals. I swear it's kind of annoying how many times people will say that, like in their emails, if I'm being honest, especially because it's like these big bold letters at the bottom of an email. But you're right in the sense of that is our goal, right? Our goal is to be remembered. So therefore, what is being remembered help us do? It helps us get more referrals. So the thing about being remembered is we have to come up in memory. So when someone is thinking about something, we have to be the person that they think of. And so referrals and memory go hand in hand. They are one and the same. If you have the ability or have captured attention long enough, people will remember you and therefore use you when it is time to make that decision for themselves. So if you want to increase referrals, right, you need to do whatever you can to increase your chance of being remembered. I mean, it's just really that simple. And I think what you've done, Ryan, over the last 18 years is stay relevant enough that people remember you and they can trust that you're the person that they can go to as that guiding light or as that person that's going to help you or help them have a clearer picture or a clear answer to a problem that they might be facing. And I think it boils down to storytelling and our ability to really talk about things that people need to hear, but do it in our friend Renee's way of how we frame it, right? So that it's something that you and I can connect on. And I could go down a whole wormhole about that, but I won't.
I do think relevance
yeah.
equals referrals organically. And you do have, salespeople, you do have to ask for the business, but I think you're right. Like, again, back to what I said, if you're the most relevant person in your market, that realtor's going to be curious enough to go, should I work with Michelle or Ryan? Equals referral. And so relevance does equal referral in my world. You do have to ask for the business, but back to my point, like if you pursue relevance and you are the hottest, when somebody thinks, like you said, I need to buy a house. Oh, well, that guy's, I see him everywhere, or that girl, I see her everywhere. I should probably connect with them first.
Yeah.
That's why I think everything else trickles down from there.
Well, and I think
there's always a so that, like when we shoot content, you and I've talked about this before, there's always a so that. Guys, we do not get, fall into the trap of vanity metrics. unless you're truly going to try to monetize on Facebook and YouTube, which is a whole different industry.
I mean, even Instagram
There's
for that matter, it's
yeah,
monetizable, but the reality is
you're
a
probably
lot
not
of it is
going to
fake.
pay your bills unless you're Mr. Beast. But there's always a so that, like, and if you're not getting the so that, I shoot content so that I can sell a home. I shoot content so that I can finance a home. There's always a so that, and if you're not seeing that, be brave enough to look in the mirror and go, like, something needs to change in my delivery or in my content. You're not shooting content for likes, and I get it. It feels good. The more views we have, it feels good. It feels good to me too. The more hearts we we get, it feels good. But that's not the so that. And so have that as your guiding principle too. There is a so that. We are in the business of selling homes, right? Or financing homes. So if you're not seeing that, there's got to be a tweak. There's got to be a tweak, or just stop doing it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not Mr. Beast. We're not content creating so we can make millions.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to a couple principles that I want to go back to and kind of break down each of them individually. But first and foremost, it's content creation is dependent upon your platform, right? So some people who will use YouTube or use LinkedIn or Facebook, Instagram, whatever, it doesn't matter. They will just be so laser focused only on that platform that they forget that there are other opportunities for them. And I'm an Instagram person. I am a diehard. I prefer Instagram over any platform that there is. Am I on YouTube? Yeah, for sure. I have a channel and we use it. This exact podcast that you guys are watching right now, you guys will get to watch it on my YouTube channel. But my YouTube channel looks a lot different than Ryan's, right? Ryan's is going to be a lot more polished and a lot more, obviously, just organically size wise over having done it for a long time. Yours is going to look different than mine. But what I could tell you right now is if I were to look at your Instagram, Ryan, and you know this, the very first thing that comes to my mind is the content doesn't look like it's supposed to be on Instagram. It's not sized for the Instagram platform properly. So the very first thing out of my thought is I can help you. I can help Ryan, but here's the other thing too is like Ryan can help me. And that's the beautiful thing about content and where you deliver your content is we're all in this process of learning and growing and trying to get better and we've never really arrived at doing so. And so Ryan, can you talk about maybe tell us the story of an example? Because you and I talked about this actually offline, but when you start to notice that something isn't working, what happens in your brain and what ultimately do you start doing to make a shift to change it?
I'll tell you the evolution of that, being a person that likes to control all things and, you know, just control freak, and I can figure it out. I will figure it out. So for years, it was on me when things weren't working properly or we weren't seeing the ROI that I thought we should. I just put my head down and went to bat and tried to figure out something, and we'd figure out a solution, and we would run that playbook. Now, wisdom, experience, I've learned to go to the team and say, here's the challenge, team. I have some input, but I really need your guys' guidance as they're younger than I am and they understand these platforms better than I do now. Going to the team, and if you guys don't have a team, go into a peer or peers and going, hey, this is where I'm at. I'm doing this well, but I'm not doing this well. What are your thoughts? And so nowadays, it's a lot more of that and leveraging the team and getting their say into the solution. People are more apt to execute a solution that they come up with versus me saying, I figured it out, go do this, 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 and this. They're like kind of rolling their eyes going, all right, that's way off, but sure, Hills, I'll do it. So nowadays, it really is leveraging the team going, hey, and look, even though that I do think that's a better approach, and many minds are better than one type thing, we still don't get it right. It doesn't mean that we're going to get it right either. And we always have, as long as you have a culture of being able to reassess, like, hey, let's look back last month. We were here, now we're here. What worked and what didn't, in a positive way, not to go, hey, your idea was dumb or your strategy was dumb and it didn't work. No, never like that. But have a culture of like, where do we need to get better? If you can implement that culture when you run your business with yourself, if you have a small team, like a loan officer assistant or an admin or something, I think you're gonna see your team flourish and constantly have that culture of growth where it's not, because sometimes when you say, hey, you could have done it better, you might hear, well, I did a bad job, I'm a bad person. That's not what I'm saying. That's not the culture I want to build either. But we all can get better. You know this as an athlete, like it's inherently, in you to perfect, I don't know swimming, but I'm guessing like your stroke or whatever. For golf, like everybody perfects everything all the way back, all the way through where your weight is. So why is that any different in business? Why do people get offended when we're critiquing our business strategy? We shouldn't. We're just trying to get better, faster, stronger, more efficient. So, but that, that's hard to do in business because there's emotion tied to it versus you just trying to perfect your stroke or get a faster time in the pool. So for me, it's just been building a culture of like, hey team, we're still not there yet. That's okay. I want to get there. What are your guys' thoughts? And so still today, like we still know that we have good content. One of our reoccurring problems is because there's so much turnover in real estate and mortgage, our database will get big. People will leave or go to different companies. And so that double opted in email that we had is kind of dead now. And the last thing you do is remember to resubscribe to the RE source when you're changing companies.
Yeah.
So like constantly going, okay, we got to go find them again. And when we find them, they're like, oh, there's the RE source. We love you guys. We haven't seen you for a minute. I'm like, yeah, I know. Good. Glad we connected again. But that's a reoccurring challenge for us. You could go, well, yeah, dummy, if you're lived on Instagram, you wouldn't have to worry about that because they could change companies and you wouldn't have to worry about finding their email.
Yeah, but and yes, it is true, but emails is always, I feel like email is a currency that people kind of sleep on too much. And even me with the Instagram platform being my platform of choice, like I spend a lot of time on my emails and I put a lot of energy and effort into how I end up with people in the database because that matters. And I feel like we do a good job at pushing people from our email to our email system, excuse me, like in our CRM to our socials. Whether that is through my Facebook group where they can watch a Facebook Live, which then invites them into the Instagram platform to watch other content. Like, I mean, long story short, we have a funnel, right, that pushes them through. And I think it's just understanding how that happens. But one of the things that I think is important is the progression of how we produce or even what our video content looks like is so dramatic. I mean, you and I laughed about this when we talked about it, but like some of the videos that we've put out back in the day, quote unquote, like I started Instagram in 2014, really heavily, which is when Instagram was pretty much brand new. It had kind of just burst on the scene. There were a lot of people that were doing it, but it was kind of a quiet sleeper in the industry. And I was in corporate America in 2012, 13, and then part of 2014 before I then broke out of corporate jail in my world, and created Burma Media. But I was only at the two companies that I worked for when I was in corporate America. We only talked about Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. That was it. Like, even though Instagram was a thing, we weren't using it and it wasn't really being talked about in that structure. So when I started Instagram in 2014 myself and kind of started to play with the platform, I mean, hell, my videos were so bad. Like, it was all the way cut off. I had no idea how to caption anything. Don't even talk to me about editing because, like, no, I did not go to school for that. No, right? Like, it was not good. And so when people say, hey, Michelle, should I delete all my old content if I'm now starting all of this and I'm getting better? Like, hey, Ryan, if I get your help to help me make better video content, should I delete all my old stuff? And, the answer in my mind, and I'm curious what yours is, but hell no. Like, let your community see the transition or the shift over many, many, many years. Let them evolve with you,
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you go to YouTube and scroll, because it's 18 years, our library is gigantic to like the beginning. You'll see that I didn't always have gray hair. So that's one. But you also see a more silly side of me. So back in the day, and we actually get this feedback a lot, this to blow your mind because you probably haven't seen me in this manner, but we shot a ton of parodies. Like, it was so stressful being in the Great Recession. We brought laughter to the industry and we just make fun of ourselves and like make people laugh. Like, I danced on camera, believe it or not. And people are like,
breakdancing, right? Are you going to the Olympics in 2020?
Yes, I break danced before it was an Olympic sport. No. But it was like The Office was big back then. So we'd shot a lot of shows with The Office style. And I still think they're really, really funny. And everybody comes up, some OG fans are like, dude, you don't do any more of the funny stuff anymore. I'm like, I know, I really needed to do it. It's a lot of work. But I love doing that stuff. And so I guess it's a lesson too. Like, you guys don't always have to be perfect speaker and like delivering the perfect message about rates, you can also like just have fun with it. So I was in Colorado the other week, and actually the whole team was, and we're doing content creation so that we can go tell the Colorado market who we were. That was the goal, right? And as the day progressed, we were doing a professional job about, it was really a branding exercise. And I went back to my roots. I'm like, dude, this would be so much funnier if like we went through, and instead of being like these professional mortgage people, it was the complete opposite. If we just like walk through the office here at Movement Mortgage, we close loans all the time, every time. For instance, and they like threw to an office and like somebody's hair's on fire and they're like screaming at this, at the top of their lungs. And you're like, oh, okay. And you go to like the next room, and I freaking hate it here. It was like the complete opposite. I think people would like laugh and connect with that. Like, oh, these guys are just real dudes, real people. And I think we'd probably actually execute the exercise even better than being super, super polished. So back to your question, like, no, don't delete it. It's like all of our journeys, like we're here for a reason, and every step we took, it mattered. And so why would you delete that journey? It got you to here. So yeah, long story short, we had a lot of funny stuff back in our previous years. It helped me get here. And I probably need to, they're probably right. The fans are probably right. We need to do more funny content, more parodies, and make fun and make light of our situation.
I think you need to do more personal content in the first place. And you and I have also talked about that. We've talked about a lot, Ryan, clearly. But I do think
Coach Bill Hard has told me that too.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
You guys are aligned.
Great human to tell you that. And, I'm going to be no different there and say, like, I think the biggest problem with video content in the mortgage industry, and this is a big question that I want to have as the final big question of our show, but I believe that the biggest problem with mortgage video content right now is that we are so data driven. We're so focused on sharing what we think is valuable content that we really miss the point of what the platforms are even really supposed to be about. And also, this is maybe the Voldemort phrase that I'm about to say. If you're not consistent, it's your own fault. And why is that the case? Because most likely you're not able to create consistency because you don't enjoy what you're doing. So if you're not doing it in a way that feels organic to you and feels fun to you, you will stop doing it. So getting on camera every single Friday and having to talk about mortgage rates, that's not sexy. That's not fun. There's nothing about that you're just like, I can't wait for Friday. Like there's nothing in there that creates that feeling. So eventually, I'm sorry to say it, you will stop doing it. And when you fall off, then you're like, oh shoot, how did I let that happen? Well, to your point, you forgot to have fun in the process. And so for you, if you get to that spot, I agree with Bill. Like, I think it's time to go back to the fun parody stuff and even bring in the Who is Ryan to some of the shows, which is who is Ryan outside of work? Where does Ryan go? What does Ryan do when he's not working all the time or when he's not in a green room or in front of a camera all the time? Like, there's more to Ryan than what you allow to be seen. And I think that professional side of you could be what may be holding you back from breaking into whatever that next echelon is that you're after.
Yeah, I pride myself on being coachable, so I've heard that, and I definitely want to receive it. And we shot a show 2 weeks ago that was personal to me, and I think this is important too. Overall, the lesson is it doesn't always have to be data driven. I'm a data geek. I love this business, and I love what makes it tick, and I love trying to like explain it and articulate it in a way that everybody understands, and also educate where the industry is going. But I don't think I need to be that 24/7. I think you're right. Like, you need to be a human and connect with people first over data. So that's a takeaway too. Like, just be a normal person and connect with the other person through the camera. But 2 weeks ago, it's not easy for me. I opened up about our financial struggles on the show, and was talking about the frame was when it rains it pours. You've heard that phrase, and it felt like that in my life because we had just remodeled our house, and then the pipes burst, and there was water coming from the ceilings and from the electrical outlets, and we had just spent a lot of money and a lot of time to remodel it, so that sucked. Flooded the whole downstairs. We got it back up, after several months and a lot more money than we thought, back up to where we had it before. and then pipes burst again.
Oh,
And then
you need an
the
insurance
sep-
company, I hope, that will pay you
oh,
this back.
they're going to kick me off, I'm sure, after this one. And then my son's car decides to stop working while he's driving it. And then this is all true. The next day, my daughter's car, then the septic tank broke, and that was 5,000. And then the tankless water heater broke, and that was another $10,000. Like, it just felt like when it rains, it pours. And this was a pattern interrupt for us. We usually talk about the industry, right? And it was my story personally of like, hey, this sucks. And I had to check myself because I'm not a victim. So I was not going to say, when it rains, it pours. Things happen in threes. Oh, of course, this happens to me. Just my luck. No, F that. Nope. You know what? That was a season. And at some point, hopefully, these expensive items will stop breaking and I'll get back to normal. But I was not going to become a victim, and I was not going to frame it in the context of when it rains, it pours. And so our takeaway was like, you can control the storm. Like, you don't have to be a victim to the storm. And that was me listening to my friends like you and Bill Hart going, hey, you need to open up a little bit more,
Mm.
not just be a persona or a host of the RE Source. So I do listen. I do try to. I am coachable. And you guys are right. Like, we get a lot of feedback when I do open up about my personal story and stuff. Sharing, like, there's another story I've shared that's connected with people. I felt like when I was in the youth group, I started the show with this. Those doors were slammed, and I was all in. I was committed, and that was like one of the hardest things in my life to realize. Like, I had gone all in. I'd given my life to this vision that I thought I was supposed to be on with my family, and those doors were slammed shut. And I took that as my sacrifice wasn't good enough to be in that world, and that was something that was really, really difficult to swallow and go, well, what do you mean? How am I not good enough to, like, what? I don't like, it didn't compute. Like, why would, like, so I've told that story a few times, and so many people are like, wow, Hills, I didn't know that side of you. And because I just don't share it that often. But I think your whole point about, like, don't forget to be human. You can mix in, you did it on our show. You mixed in your story about, and I don't even like that story because it was dirty diapers, and I don't like doing that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even like repeating the story, but it
My
was a
son
funny
poops
story.
everywhere, guys. Okay. I'll say it.
But people connect with you that way. And so don't forget to be a human, and sprinkle in some of your life into your content creation. It doesn't always have to be about the next hottest home or the next great 2-1 buy down finance strategy.
Yeah, I mean, connection creates the opportunity to have conversations about those things, and that's the point, right? And I mean, Ryan, there's so much to who you are as a human that's so special for people to understand and to hear. I'm literally wearing my bracelet that says "You are so special." That was given to me by Maddie Rodriguez, and
Oh, that's
somebody
cool.
that I just really, really love and adore. And um, I have not taken this off since she gave it to me. She doesn't even know that. But it's one of those things, like, we're going through, where we're all going through these things. I've opened up about my infertility journey on social lately. My husband and I have really been struggling, and it's not a fun thing to talk about. And it's not a fun thing to feel very alone in. But at the same time, like, when we give ourselves the opportunity to connect on some of these conversations with other people, or when we even give other people the opportunity to hear that we have something going on, like, that you're a human, and that like, holy shit, financial things happen, right? You probably spent $100,000 on fixing a home that you'd probably already spent
Already fixed. Yes,
$100,000 on trying to
100%.
fix. And I don't care how much money any of us are making. Like, the reality is that's a sucker punch to the gut, and it's not something that's easy to overcome. But the reality is that it's relatable. And I think in my world, right, the number one thing that I try to teach mortgage and real estate professionals is how to create connection. And in order to do that, you can create analogies between something like this financial situation that you just have found yourself in. And you even said, right, I'm not going to fall victim to when it rains, it pours. That is literally a story that you can share and create an analogy between that and something data driven. share your data, nerd out on the numbers and nerd out on all of the different things related to this new VA loan thing that came out, or whatever the new lawsuit is. Like there's always going to be something, right? But can you create an analogy between your financial storm of your house that is falling apart literally, even though you're trying to fix it, to one of those metrics or to one of those data points, and all of a sudden it's a lot less of a mortgage talking head mortgage rate video.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
there's an easy one. There's a layup right there with finance. You tell, if you have a similar story to mine, which sucks. Um, Home equity is an awesome instrument that sometimes doesn't get leveraged enough. So if you didn't have, it was more than 100 grand. If
oh,
you didn't
I'm
have
sure.
that, then you could leverage, a cash out refinance to help pay for the storm. You can do a 203K loan, which is a home improvement loan. Like there's an easy layup transition. And wouldn't you rather have a real life story? And then there's like a hero at the end. Story Brand, that book, there's a hero at
Oh
the
yeah.
end. This financial tool that helps you navigate that storm better. Like you're 100% right. Like you can marry these two together real easy.
Yep. And I think that you just did it for someone listening to this, right? Like you literally just, I think you said layup. Like I'm not a basketball person, but I'm pretty sure I know what that is. And it's just, that's the reality of it. And even talking about, I mean, anything. You could talk about golf and create an analogy between the art of practicing the golf swing and how many hours and hours and hours you spend on a driving range just using a driver to figure out how the hell to hit a golf ball off a tee. Like, I mean, there's so much analogy or analogies plural that can be involved in what we're talking about, and how we create the symbolism, quote unquote, between something going on in the mortgage space and our personal life. But I also think the differentiator, I'm wearing my Be Different shirt for those of you guys watching us on YouTube. Um, but the Be Different aspect to this, how do we create a pattern interrupt in an industry that a lot of other people are trying to do better than us, or thinking that they're trying to do better than us, right? How do we be that different human, or be that different light that someone is going to say, oh, I remember Michelle, or oh, I remember Ryan. And in my opinion, it's our ability to be raw and authentic, and quite frankly, to be vulnerable in some of the crap that we're going through, so that, I mean, I've had Bill Hart actually has said this to me many times. Michelle, you're this really big, high D personality, and then you share a story about your infertility, and all of a sudden we're like, holy shit, you're just a normal mom and a normal wife.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the reality is I really am. And so are you, Ryan. You're a normal guy that's built a very successful career with movement and through the resource TV, and one of the top regions, the top region, I believe, going back and forth with one other, right? But you are the top guy in a massive organization. But guess what? You have the same crap, the same storms that everybody else has,
Yeah.
and or that other people have been through. And there's so much power in being willing to share that. And I honor you for listening, being coachable, and also implementing what all of us have been trying to get you to do, right? But also, I think I also want everyone to know, like, if you're not connected with Ryan, if you're not following what the Resource TV has done and is currently doing, you need to, because it is really, really, really powerful stuff. And it's totally transcended. This is the reason I love Ryan so much, honestly, guys, is he's transcended all of it. Like there's no storm, whether that's on the mortgage side or personal side, that he hasn't overcome. And there's never been oh, well, it's not working right now, so I'm just going to stop. Right. Oh, it's been a hard 3 months. My videos aren't doing very well. Oh, I guess I'll just hang up the towel and move on. Like, absolutely not. And I think we need more of you, Ryan. The world needs more of you to understand that you're either in or you're out, right? Be all in, and understand that there's ebbs and flows that go to along with that. But the discipline aspect is going to last a lot longer than the motivation. I love that phrase, and that you said, and I really think it's
Yeah.
so true. So true.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Those are super kind words. Thank you so much. And guys, we are right there with you, struggling. Like I remember when we started, like imagine we were the only TV on this giant wall. Well, it's easy to grab eyes when we're the only TV on the wall. And now there's just millions upon millions of TVs, and we're one of them now. And you
Mm-hmm.
probably feel the same way. Like, how do you get attention and eyes? Like we're right there with you. We were trying to solve that problem every single day, even though we have 18 years under our belt. Like we're right there with you. So Don't have any magic pills to give you except for wake up, be disciplined to commit to your strategy, and you'll be surprised if you stay disciplined and you wake up and you're rinse and repeat, as you said. Your TV might start grow a little bit bigger than everybody else's that isn't as committed, and you're gonna have to, like, everything always changes.
Yeah.
I actually love it. I can complain that it should be easier for us 18 years later, but it's not. I love it. I don't care. Like I said, I was in MMA too. Like, it's a fight. Let's go. Like, I love the competition now. Everybody's like, oh, do you hate that there's so many content creators? No, I love it. They're younger, they're newer, they're fresh face. They're like, they got more momentum. Cool. Let's roll. Let's see what happens. I know I'm going to show up and, hustle and repeat every day. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah. We'll see if they
It's
can.
easy to have a good year. It's easy to have a good year, have a good career.
Oh, I love that too. What a good way to end. It's easy to have a good year. It's not easy to have a good career. And I think I know you're doing it. So Ryan, I have a big question for you that I always like to end on, which is, what do you have coming up? And if there's some way for someone to get dialed into what are you doing or what they could be doing with you, what is it? And how do we get connected to you?
Literally answering it, literally what I have coming up. I have 2 big East Coast speaking gigs in Philly. And I can't remember where the other one is. So if you connect with me and you're on the East Coast, I'd love to connect with you. It's in October. So 2 really big speaking gigs, a local one here with the NBA. So if you're in Seattle, I'll be speaking in September in Seattle. And then really just, I'm really excited, guys, about the industry. If you've been in it and you felt like you've got punched in the face for the last 2.5 years, I feel you. Yeah. And you have, but things are getting better. The best is yet to come. Get ready. Like, it's going to be another amazing ride. We had 10 years of expansion, actually more than that. We broke a record. I think it was 12 years of expansion after 2008. And I don't know if it's going to be another 12 years of prosperity, but I know we're going to have a really, really good run. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm getting the team ready to take advantage and leverage this run that's coming our way. Get excited, get all your strategies ready and rolling now so that you're operating at your highest level when these rates do come down and houses are flying off the shelf. So that's what's coming next. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm going to be damned if I don't miss that boat. Like, I'm going to be on that boat, getting as much opportunity as I can for me and the entire squad.
I love it. And I look forward to the day the universe aligns for the 2 of us to be in person and not behind a Zoom screen.
I'm sure it'll happen
sooner versus later, we hope. But Ryan, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. For those of you guys who are not connected to Ryan, all of his Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of that will be in the show notes. So you'll have lots of different ways to connect with him. But I'm honored to know you and grateful for you being on the show. And until next time, guys, we'll see you in the next episode of the Coffee and Questions podcast.
Appreciate you.